everybody. Welcome to Mormonish. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Landon.
And we have not just one, but two for the price of one amazing guests on tonight. I know they're already laughing at me. We have the incredible Chris Metz and Dave Nolan. These guys are directors and artists extraordinaire, and we are just absolutely thrilled to be able to have them on and talk to them tonight. So they have extensive bios. We can't possibly read all of it because we'd be here all night, but Landon is going to delve in at least a little so you can get an idea of who they are, and then we'll just start chatting.
Yeah, I'll get started with Chris. Chris, you want to give a wave for those who are watching so they know?
That's me.
Chris Metz is an accomplished live theater professional. He's an actor, director, and writer. He has a degree in fine arts with an emphasis in musical theater and has been performing in northern Utah for more than a decade. Chris is the book writer for The Good Shepherds, a new musical which seeks to shine a light on how religious institutions utilize the generous donations from their faithful flock of believers. He also directed the premiere run of The Good Shepherds, which performed at the Syracuse Amphitheater in Utah. When Chris isn't performing theater or working a day job, he enjoys time with his partner, Whitney, and their amazing 5 kids. The entire family is involved extensively in their local theater community as well. Chris's favorite acting roles include Dewey Finn in the upcoming production of School of Rock at the Ellen Eccles Theater in Logan, Utah, Plankton, the SpongeBob musical, Gomez, the Addams Family musical, and Galahad from Spamalot. Directing credits include The Good Shepherds, Legally Blonde, Noises Off, and Frozen Jr. So that's Chris. We'll introduce
Chris.
Dave.
Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, Dave. Dave Nolan, also known as Jack Betty. He's a composer, singer, producer. David Nolan's productions and songs have captured national news attention and have been featured in the Washington Post, Seattle Times, Salt Lake Tribune, and in news outlets in Europe. David has been performing original compositions since the 4th grade and has written nearly 1,000 songs, many of which can be found via his artist name, Jack Betty. Proficiently playing several instruments, David has the rare ability to combine different instruments, genres, and musical styles into immersive audio experiences. Having a true passion for live musical theater, David has written the music and lyrics for multiple musicals, including The Good Shepherds, which debuted summer 2022. Broadway World nominated The Good Shepherds for numerous awards in 2022. The only thing David loves more than music is spending time with his beautiful wife, Alexis, and their 6 amazing children. Wow, lots of kids there. 11 between the 2 of you.
You're crazy by one.
You must live in Utah, right? Are we from Utah?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to explain to everybody, we are so excited to have Chris and Dave on, how we even kind of connected with them to begin with. So last, I think probably spring, wasn't it, Landon? We started seeing these advertisements on social media for this new production that was coming out called The Good Shepherds. And the S in Shepherds was a $sign, So we're like really intrigued, and we see what the topic is. It has to do with, the use of funds that churches collect, sort of a tithing kind of, the responsibility of the shepherd. So we kind of tracked, where it was going. And then we saw it was going to be appearing at the Syracuse Amphitheater, and we got tickets right away and we attended. Why don't you, Landon, just describe a little bit about our experience that night, because it was really amazing, actually.
Yeah, for me it was really cool because kind of aside from your show itself, as I went to sit down, I heard my name called and I turned around and it was one of my scouts that I hadn't seen for several years. And I thought he was a TBM true believing member. And it turns out he told me that he was gay and that he was there to see someone in the play. And we got to sit next to him and I got to reconnect with him. And we went to dinner about a week or 2 later. I was able to go to dinner with him. So it started out for me really cool because I got to meet,
awesome.
Meet that scout. But the show itself was really, it was quite different than I thought it was going to be from the billing and everything as we got there and started watching it. The costuming was very different. It wasn't what you would expect. It was almost as if it was being performed at the church office building, yet no one was wearing white shirts and ties, but you could kind of tell that that's what it was about. And as the show went on, it was very definitely an edgy show about the church and the way finances are used. And I don't think they ever used the name of a specific church. I can't remember if it had a specific church name to it, but it was obvious kind of where the background came from. And so it was interesting to watch, because those of us who knew about the large fund that the church had, the play definitely played into that. But now it's become even more relevant with the SEC things and the revelations that have just come out. It's really become quite a bit more relevant, I think, in this day and age. But it was definitely relevant then, and that was your premiere. You'd never done it before, is that correct? That was the first time it had been performed for audiences, was at that location.
World premiere.
Yep.
The world premiere. That's it. So we just think you guys are just creative geniuses, basically. And so we would like to start by talking just a little bit. You guys can take turns, maybe Chris first and then Dave, just a little bit about your background, maybe a little of your faith journey and what kind of culminated in going, you know what? I have got an idea, which was this amazing play. So maybe Chris, you can tell us just a little bit about your background, and then Dave, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
Sure. So I grew up LDS. I have my dad is not a member. My mom is. So I got a pretty good balance, I guess, between the two sides of the story. Ended up deciding that I was going to serve a mission after a lot of back and forth, and so started to follow that path. I was lucky to have met my wife, who is a very good communicator. She's very open with her emotions and thoughts, and we were able to kind of grow together as we started to kind of learn things that we didn't really jive with. As you know, we have 5 kids that we're extra concerned about, and just want to make sure that everything that they're learning in their lives is something that we feel will make them a better human being. And so for me, it just got to the point where I was noticing a lot of things that were causing destructive behavior in myself, in regards to being in the church, and did not want to transfer that to my children, and so that's kind of how, or where we stand now, or where I stand with my family outside of the church. And we have a lot of friends that are still members who are they're awesome, and it just wasn't for us, and so definitely when we met up with Dave, and we heard the idea about the Good Shepherds that he had, and it was very intriguing, and especially from the perspective of he was still a member, and I was really trying to approach it from the perspective of like, hey, let's make some change. Let's really like put this out there. Like, we don't need to be hiding in a hole and things like that. And so,
so did you guys develop this together, or did one of you write it first and then went to the other with the idea, or how did it develop?
So I think some of my background will probably answer that. Chris, do you have anything else to add though before I take over? Go ahead. Okay. So I don't need to bore you with a long story, but 3-ish years ago, it was a perfect storm of job losses and a massive home repair that was unforeseen, and all these other just big unforeseen issues that our family encountered. And I just was trying to get just a little bit of help. I wasn't asking for much. I had given everything, up to that point to the church. I had served in massive callings, and just needed a little bit of help, and was unfortunately turned down in a big way. And right after that, the first revelation. The first news article, I can't remember if it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whoever, said, hey, there's $100 billion sitting in the world's biggest stock fund. And I just couldn't, like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could a lifelong member who really actually needed a little bit of help just be kind of punched in the face? And then a few days later, these articles come out. So the timing was quite, I guess, unfortunate for the church to have someone like me experience that, because the way I deal with deep pain has always been and will always be through music. Starting way back in, third or fourth grade, if something hurt me as a little kid, like I would write a song about it. And so that's what I did. I just started writing a bunch of songs because it was my therapy, and it was my way of handling a very difficult thing. So I wrote many songs. I probably could have made like 2 or 3 Good Shepherds. Like, seriously, I wrote tons of songs about it. And I compiled which ones I thought were good. And I said, okay, now what do I do with these songs? Like, okay, there's some songs. And I said, well, I think there's a way to connect all these songs into a story. And as a composer, I readily acknowledged I'm probably not the greatest author and script writer. And so fortunately, I knew Chris and Whitney a little bit and said, hey, what do you guys think about this? I already have the songs. Like, the songs are great. And we just need to connect all the songs through a story. And I think Chris was like, okay, cool. Sounds like a good challenge. And, Chris was just so on top of it and figured out how to weave this story together. And we didn't even have to, like, hats off to Chris, because we didn't even have to really change that many song lyrics even. Chris was able to just take the songs and the song lyrics and just weave this beautiful story. And so awesome job, Chris.
Yeah, the songs are very rock and roll. They're high energy. It's not a musical like you think of, My Fair Lady. It's a hard cutting, lots of dancing and music. It was very, very. The music was great, and you starred in it, and you have a great voice. That was one of the first things. When you came out on stage to start it out with the very first song, it was like, wow, who's this guy singing in the front there? He's a very good singer. Yeah, there's no doubt you could very well put on the rock and roll image. So.
Yeah, right out of the gate, we were like, this is really special. What is this going to be? It was just incredible to watch. Absolutely amazing. So what you're saying is you did the songs, Chris did the book, you put it together. And tell us how you got people involved. Tell us how you gathered up the cast. I mean, it was an amazing cast. They were extremely talented, everyone. You never know what you're going to get at like an amphitheater in a city. We were blown away by the caliber of the talent. It was just amazing.
Yeah. So, and Chris can also speak to this. We feel very fortunate to have found people who were very passionate about the subject matter. I mean, Chris, if you were to guess, like, I mean, if I were to venture a guess, I'd probably say that 60 or 70% of the cast was LGBTQ plus. Like, I mean, it was just people who, just beautiful, wonderful people who really resonated with feelings of being left out or damaged or hurt by certain things that the church had done. And I think those aspects just really united this tight family of a cast.
Yeah, we even had all spectrums of, wow, that's feedback galore there. We even had, we had people from the BIPOC community. We had people who were still members of the church, people who were halfway, who were all the way out, yeah, so it was definitely a huge spectrum of people who had been affected by the church at some point, whether negatively or positively. So it was.
Did the cast or either of you get pushback from ward or family members who said this isn't good thing?
I'll let Dave take this one.
I'd heard rumors about a lot of issues happening around that. I'm very fascinated to hear about that.
Yeah, honestly, the saddest part of this whole deal was seeing, man, I get emotional, seeing cast members getting shunned by their own families. And I certainly felt that. I have great parents. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I mean, I felt it, and I know that many cast members who had active, believing family members were just treated like crap and shunned. And I think it's BS. I I I think that when someone's conscience is screaming at them that something is not okay, that person should be able to voice their conscience. And I am very passionate about that. And unfortunately, voicing your conscience in the church as an active member is quite scary, like honestly.
Well, and especially in Utah, there are repercussions lots of times, that can be very real in the real world, where people look at you a different way, maybe retaliate, maybe, it's not a joke, not at all. So that I had read about that scenario before seeing the play. And I remember just watching all the actors up there and thinking they all look so happy doing what they're doing. But I knew there was probably a backstory with several of them that involved a lot of pain and sacrifice to even be doing this. And that made it even more important, I thought, and even more poignant in their performance. Because I would say, and don't you agree, Landon, everybody put their heart and soul into it. I mean, those musical numbers, you could just feel them. I mean, it was just incredible. It wasn't just a light little la la la. They were singing from the soul. Don't you think, Landon? I mean, it was very impactful, and the audience felt it too, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You could feel you said the cast was kind of, LBGT. You could feel that they felt removed from the religion. You could kind of feel it in the story, I think, overall.
Yeah, and I think maybe so. I hope that your clip from it is still up online somewhere, because we will put those in the show notes so that people can kind of see what we're talking about. But maybe between the two of you, just kind of describe the storyline, because I want our viewers to understand, we've talked about the powerful singing and the songs, but the storyline was so interesting. And what Landon touched on before, it had a universal theme of institutions, perhaps religious institutions, not doing all they could and doing what they're supposed to, right, to follow the mission of the scriptures to help, the poor and needy and the down and out. So it definitely had we all recognized it as, they're talking about our particular institution here, but it was very universal. So maybe just share a little bit about the story as it unfolded, and so our viewers can kind of understand what this was about.
Go ahead, Chris.
Cool. Yeah, so the story is centered around a young woman named Laura, who is a reporter for a big New York newspaper, and she is doing an expose on religious institutions that basically trying to kind of reveal what happens to all these funds, right? These funds that people are constantly contributing, and there's kind of this loophole in our system that allows them to really take advantage of that money and their nonprofit status. And so she gets this idea to really try and find ways to creative ways, right, to expose these different institutions. So she ends up getting a job at the church headquarters, and so she's kind of going under the guise of a financial worker there. and she begins to make friends with the employees there, and starts to realize they're a wide range of people who are working there, and not all of them are necessarily money grubbing people, but there are some, right? We try to represent a huge spectrum of the different types of people that you would find in these, not just as like the business people, but people within the church that are members of the church that are working there, and trying to reconcile those two things, right? So she really gets smack dab in the middle of this, and it becomes a bit of a love story as she starts to grow closer to these people and understand their struggles, their personal struggles, and their struggles with the church. And so of course, everything it needs a little bit of drama, and they eventually find out that she's under the guise of she's kind of lying to them, and that kind of creates some more drama. But we get somewhere really, really, really special, I think, towards the end, where we kind of have this universal truth of like, strip all of the the rigid rules, the religion, the attacking of the religion, all of that stuff that we disagree with aside. Can we all agree on this one thing, that there's so much more that we could all do with the resources that we have, and especially these big institutions, that they could do. And if they're professing that's what they should be doing, and that's what we all should be doing, then let's live what we're saying that we should do. And so that's kind of what the story is about, and what we're trying to accomplish with it. So.
Yeah, and I really liked how you seemed to show they came in contact with people from almost all different, I don't know, area where there might be a need. They became friends with a homeless person, that, just all the different areas where you could help. You showed with a lot of humanity these different disenfranchised groups that are being ignored or underserved oftentimes by these religious institutions. So I thought you did a really good job of just showing the human condition. Don't you think so, Landon? I really thought that was a big part of it.
Yeah, I felt that you guys took something that a lot of members were disgusted about when they found out. A lot of members couldn't believe when they found out. And in the church, it's so hard to give voice to something. And you gave a voice to that problem. You were able to through your art, say, this isn't okay to the church. And you were able to put a story together with song and dance, and say, this isn't right. And I think that was the powerful message. And at the end, there was a standing ovation. And I think that standing ovation was as much because you'd given voice to what so many in the audience wanted to say but didn't know how. And that's kind of what I felt was the beauty of the musical, was that very thing, that you were able to bring it to the stage and let people say, you're right, this is wrong, what they've done with all this money.
Yep, I remember that standing ovation. Everybody was just like, "Whoo!" There were goosebumps, and everybody. You just felt, especially that big closing number. The Greatest Showman. Think of that. That has nothing on this. That ending number was just huge and magical, and everybody stood up and cheering. And I totally agree with you, Landon. It was more like, finally, I can cheer and show my support for an idea that's in my head, and an anger maybe that I feel. So it was wonderful. How did you guys tell us about the feedback and the reception? We're just talking about our little experiences for being there, but overall, what happened?
You want to go, Chris?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, I got a lot of positive feedback. And granted, I have some of the greatest friends in the world, and one of my good friends, she's just the most bubbly, nice person ever. But she's definitely not somebody who will just like, bullshit you, and just tell you a story. So she was very complimentary, gave a lot of really great examples of you know, what she loved. And I think that was really the common thread, right? Is giving that voice. One of my favorite things that happened during the writing of the show was, as Dave and I were discussing, you know, like it feels like we're just like missing a voice here. You know, a little bit of the female voice, a little bit of you know, the kind of repressed male voice, you know, and we were trying to figure out like what's missing. And Dave pulled out one of his songs that he was like, I really like this, but it just wasn't working. And he showed me the you know, kind of a demo of it, and I was like, dude, this is like the most musical theater feel song that you've written, you know. And we turned it into a voice that I feel like really represents a huge array of people that are in the church. And I think most of the world, right, they're going to say, oh yeah, Mormons, they're just going to say, oh, you don't drink coffee, you don't smoke, you don't swear, you don't watch rated R movies, all that stuff. They don't realize that we're people too, that we have these struggles, you know. Some of us struggle with addiction, some of us struggle with you know, anger, some of us struggle, we all have these same struggles. We just kind of hide behind this smile and the face of the church. And so that's kind of the feedback that I got. I think a lot of people resonated with that sort of throughput of just feeling represented. And that's not something that you, as you pointed out, Rebecca, right? There's not a whole lot of like, hey, come tell us what your concerns are, like how you're feeling. You feel sad about having to carry the weight of the world, you know, like, come tell us. No, just deal with it, get on your knees and pray or something, you know. And so I think that seems to be the main thing that I heard a lot from people, was just that it resonated with them on a level that perhaps you know, a lot of other, especially Mormon media, right, just doesn't really do for them. So
yeah, thanks, Chris. I think he hit the most important point. Is we did want it to resonate with as many people as possible. And I absolutely knew there would be some songs and some parts that would rub the true believing Molly Mormon type people the wrong way. And, you know, whatever, like, for example, on Let's Buy Florida, that's kind of the fun party song.
Greatest song ever, I'm telling you.
And we had cast members, parents and grandparents, legit get up and walk out during that song. And I, as a composer, I heard people would be like, why would you make all that up? Why would you make up a song about Let's Buy Florida? And I just love telling them that the church is the largest landowner in Florida by far. And when you have this much money and you don't want to spend it helping the poor and the needy like Jesus would, you got to put it somewhere. So I guess you put half of it in stocks and half of it in properties. And everything that was said in the script and in the song about that was true. And if the truth makes you as a Molly Mormon want to get up and leave, then, you know, that's not my problem. So I knew that some aspects of it would certainly rub a little bit too harshly or whatever. But for the most part, even all of the active members, family, active friends, and they just loved it. And I've had so many people come up to me and say, hey, Dave, like, I have the same concerns. I just have no way of getting it out there. And thank you for being a voice for the members. Like, I still am a member. I still attend regularly. And even though they wish I would quietly disappear, and that's sad. Like, the church doesn't know how to handle people like me who are members like me, who actively attend, who are not afraid to call out the BS. And like, I'll tell you one quick example. 15 months ago, as the news stories were all coming out, and my wife was with me in this meeting, so she can vouch for me. We very specifically said, so and so, church leader, we were talking to a church leader, and I said, you do realize that the church has set up all these different shell companies, and they're hiding like countless billions in all these fake shell companies. And I was specifically told by that church leader, no, that would never happen. The church would never do that. And here we are, fast forward to the SEC article, which, by the way, awesome podcast episode for you too. That was awesome. And you would think that I would feel a sense of validation when that article came out, saying, see, I was right, and all you people were wrong, all you naysayers about the musical. But it's not like I'll ever get an apology from that church leader or from anyone else who happily threw me and Chris and everyone else all the cast members under the bus. Like, they're happy to throw us under the bus. And then sadly, when we are proven right, they just pretend like nothing ever happened. And I think it's quite ironic, and it's quite infuriating, actually. That's a better word for it. If you look at any of the positive progress in the church, 1978, blacks in the priesthood, the exclusion policy, like one-to-one interviews with bishops, like every with the youth, every single positive change in the church comes after the bold and the loud voices, period. And what the church will do is they'll villainize the people like me and Chris and my entire cast and anyone who supports the musical and throw us under the bus. And then what do? 2 days after the musical ended, what did the church do? They released their news article with their biggest cash humanitarian donation in history 2 days after the musical. And it's just infuriating that as a member, when you're bold enough to call out the BS, like Sam Young or any of those other bold voices, they will throw you under the bus, and then they'll make those very same changes and take all the credit for it. Meanwhile, guys like me and my family are the ones who pay the price and the ones who get shunned and treated like second-class members, and the whole neighborhood doesn't even talk to us anymore. And it's just, it's a vicious cycle. And that is why I think it is like very hard to be a loud voice and remain active in the church. And I can see very clearly how and why so many people just say, my mind can't take the mental gymnastics anymore, I'm done. Because it's brutal and it's hard, it's humiliating, and it's BS that I am treated like a second-class member for voicing my conscience. You're not allowed to have a conscience, apparently. So anyways, that was a rant. Sorry.
It's like hitting your head against the brick wall, right? So
yeah.
And that's when you start doing exactly what you did. You start saying, what do I have? What talent do I have? Or what way do I have to speak my voice? Because I'm not included anymore. I have been cast to the side. What do I do, or how do I say it? And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have you guys on here, is because that's exactly what you did. You found a way to express your voice. And my hat off to you, Dave, for being able to be active and go back to church every week with that, with that hanging over your head. That because I guess I started with the same, maybe I can make a change from the inside. And I realized pretty quickly, no, I really can't. All the real change seems to come from the outside. As you said, you get excommunicated and then they do something about it, but it's the outside pressure. The church won't take any input from the inside. It only takes it from the outside, and that's what they react to.
I think the church is in a bit of a stuck in a rock and a hard place with me, honestly, because there were so many big news articles about this musical. And if they give me the axe at this point, all of those same reporters will be happy to do like follow-up stories.
Oh, that's a huge story. That's an even bigger story then. That, yeah,
like the
you're a
composer of the
whistleblower.
musical
Yeah.
gets excommunicated.
Yeah.
And, like I don't think they're willing to roll the dice on that yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it would be a massive bad publicity if they chose to go that route, I think. So we'll see.
I'll take the bullet for you, Dave.
Everybody will.
It was me. It was me. I did all the bad stuff. He just did the.
That's right. He was not. He didn't know what was happening. That's it. I feel like I wish, especially with the climate right now, you guys could release at least. I know it would be hard to mount the production again right now, but even releasing some of the songs, like especially "Let's Buy Florida." Have you guys thought about even just releasing a few of the songs? They're so relevant. I feel like they would really be picked up and people would listen and understand even more now. I don't know. I just, especially Let's Buy Florida. That was just so entertaining and so true. It was just
so some of them are out there.
Okay.
Some of the songs are out there already on Spotify and Apple and the big players.
Okay.
Some of them I would like to keep as teasers for when we are ready to do a real run. Right. And what I mean by real run is, as someone who had to bootstrap the entire production myself, like the costs of renting a theater for 3 weeks, paying the actors, like it's so much. Like it was already so much as is. Like it was a huge burden for my family to do just what we did. So I mean, Chris and I would love nothing more than to eventually find people who believe in it, who might actually have a little more money than we do, who might be willing to help us do a real run. Because I think, and Chris, chime in anytime, but I think a 2 or 3 week run, like somewhere closer to Salt Lake, like it right now, like with everything going on, would just be hugely successful. And we would, I think that's the next step, and we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I think that has to be. Have you thought of going to your bishop for help? Too soon? Bishop, we have this musical and we really feel like it should.
Hey, I will say, I will give credit where credit is due. And my local bishop and stake president have been dying to meet with me this entire time, obviously, because I'm one of those members that the church doesn't know how to deal with.
Right.
And to my stake president's credit, I said, okay, if you read the SEC report, word for word, the actual report, not the whitewashed, sanitized crap on KSL. Yep. We're talking about the actual report from the SEC. If you read that word for word, I will come visit with you for a minute. And he shook my hand and said, okay, I'll read it word for word. So, I mean, that's more than I've gotten from a lot of members, like a ton. I mean, it's like pulling teeth just to get members to read the actual report. Yeah. And you would think that when your own government has an investigation and a 10-page report against your church, you would think as a member, you would want to know why the government has issued a massive fine and a 10-page report against your church. But like even me being a public voice about this, I still have a hard time trying to get anyone to read the actual report. Like there's this True Blue member, good friend of mine, who has spent his entire life in law enforcement, defending the law, right? He'll die in his career. I mean, I'm just saying, like, he'll give anything to defend the law in his career. And yet that same person utterly refuses to read when the law, that same law that he defends, when the law publishes this report. It's crazy. like how members, I mean, that's why I loved your episode, is the TBM response, the justification.
How are they
they have.
justifying it? Yep, yep.
Yeah,
And basically,
it's
Deseret
nuts.
News and KSL said, we consider, that was from the church, we consider this matter closed. And so that's all you need to know. And the
Chris,
weasel words in the article where they just said, oh, we discovered this and we decided to comply. I think a lot of people don't realize there was an investigation. I don't think they really understand that there was, wrongdoing and a fine. I don't think they get it.
No, they don't. And by the way, Chris, let's take note of Rebecca's suggestion. Like, there needs to be a new song. Maybe we consider the matter closed.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I'll write that one for you, Rebecca.
Please. Yeah, wow.
Love that idea.
That's it. I think there needs to be part 2.
Honestly, that was the, like I said earlier, you would think I would feel validation, like hearing the SEC report. But when I saw the actual report from the SEC, did give me validation. True. Yes. The sanitized, whitewashed responses from the church just infuriated me. And that one that you brought up, Rebecca, was the worst. We consider the matter closed.
We consider this matter closed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I've never seen. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I that's something that's always bothered me. I think even when I was in seminary and trying to, everyone was trying to convince me that I should turn tail and become, because I was way against the church until my senior year, and they wanted me to be the perfect Mormon boy, but I still had to go to seminary. And I always heard, right, and don't look at things that are against the church. Don't look at any criticism. Approved don't do any sources. Of this. Yeah. And one of the things that always bothered me, and I was like, okay, so you're telling me I read the Book of Mormon, I pray about it, and I know that it's true. Well, why can't I read things that are against the church, pray about it, and see whether it's true or not? And that's kind of something that I wish that they could grasp a hold of. This is just a financial document, right? Mm-hmm. This is just a financial document. And this isn't anti, right? Like, let's read it. Let's evaluate it.
Everything's
I mean, if you want to pray about it, if that's your thing, great. Pray about it and let's see how we feel about it. And let's try to make things better. But, back to the point of us, wanting to continue to do this, right? And I think we're both committed to trying to make this a very successful and universal message. If we need to add, another song, it's let's consider this matter closed. I think we do it because
no, that's brilliant. That would get so much play. I'm not kidding. And then you could say, listen to the song and then, we need support for the actual play when there's so much more of that, but it's completely relevant right now.
I'll just say it, it'll be very interesting if and when Dallin Oaks outlives Russell M. Nelson, because Dallin Oaks would become the prophet, and he is the most do not criticize the church leaders. The church does not apologize. It'll be interesting how when he's in charge, people like me will be even, I don't know how it's possible, but we'll be even more painted as villains because he's on the record for saying, do not criticize the church leaders, even if the criticism is true.
Yeah.
It's how can we even have a conscience, And that's what's the most sad to me is, why can't I voice my conscience?
Yeah, you have to override your own conscience. That's the whole point. If you hear something that doesn't sit well with you, I think of the November 15th policy, even all TBMs were like, wait, what? There was something that gave everyone pause, which is your, conscience, inner voice screaming at you, this is insane. But then what are you told to do? Gaslight yourself, pray until it's okay and you're all right, saying that you're on board with it. You are constantly taught to override your inner voice, and that is so unhealthy. It's just so bad for you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This was the thing that broke. I think my wife was in while I was out, I'd left probably 3 years earlier, but when the story broke about the money, she was just going, that can't be right. Can that be right? And she started looking at it and going, wow, this is not what I thought my church was about. And that was the one thing that just took her to where she started to finally say, wow, there's something wrong here. That something stinks in Zion, I guess you could say. But it definitely should be something. Now it's even more. I mean, you've got the U.S. government investigating and finding that this was not right. And the church, although they don't admit any wrongdoing, they paid the fine because they knew. And one thing I know that you learn is when the church knows that they're wrong, they start making changes, but they disguise those changes so it doesn't look like they've done something wrong. It's not by coincidence that the whistleblower blew the whistle, and then in 2019, Nelson combined the three separate church corporation entities into one, with the bishopric and the first presidency all being into one. I mean, they start making changes because they know they've been caught, and they try to make it look like, oh, no, this was just a standard thing we were going to do already anyway. And they start moving on it, and they make big donations, like you said. Oh, that's what this was for. We were saving it for this. Oh, we're going to do a big temple building project right now because that's how we can give out a lot of this money without really giving it out. It's going right back to us, but we can call it a charitable donation now. And then they start counting ward member hours cleaning the bathrooms or whatever. And now they say, oh, we've given billions in humanitarian aid, when they really haven't given anything more than they were giving, but they change the perspective and make it look different. And that's how you know when they've been caught in a cookie jar. They don't actually make a change that makes a real change. They make a change that looks like they're making a change, all the while keeping what they've been doing,
covering their own right? Which I think we should ask you guys. We're going to do an episode in a week or so about conference predictions. So we've kind of put feelers out on different social media. And a lot of people are making predictions. That's what I'm going to ask you guys. A lot of people are making predictions around this scenario. I talked to another podcaster tonight who said, I predict people will physically stand up and protest and walk out. He thinks something like that is going to happen, no longer being able to sustain. I don't know if I agree with that, but I wonder, what do you guys, will they make announcements? Will they address anything? What do you guys think? What is going to happen?
So
you're on the record here. You're on the record.
Yeah. All right. I will hereby prophesy 2 things that will exactly happen.
Ooh, he's going to prophesy. Here we
go. I guarantee you, it's the same thing that happened after the musical. There will be no topics. There will be no talks centered on tithing. None. And they did that after the musical because of all the bad publicity related to the money. And they will do that again this time. There will be no talk centered on tithing. I guarantee it. Like some eager beaver butt kissing general authority will still mention it quickly, but that is my first bet, and I'd be willing to bet anyone money on that one. There will not be a talk centered on tithing by the first presidency or the apostles, period. There won't be. And then
what about by a woman? Sometimes they have the women give the talks that no one listens to. Under the bus. Not even a woman.
Right. And the other thing that happens in April is their BS church auditing report, which, for those that don't know, it's an internal piece of crap verbiage that says, hey, we checked our own books and everything looks a-okay. Like, they'll never have an independent third-party auditor go through their books. They never will. So instead, they have this internal auditing team, which gives this BS 30-second spiel that's word for word the exact same every single conference. And I bet that goes away.
That's my guess too. Yep.
Yeah, Landon said that too.
Just like the membership, now that it's decreasing, they got rid of that report. They're going to get rid of this report.
Yeah. And here's the sad thing that the members don't even consider is when the prophet and the apostles are afraid to preach from the pulpit something such as tithing, then as soon as they become afraid to preach it, it shouldn't be relevant anymore. And they should not require their local bishops and their local stake presidents to be the preacher and enforcer of tithing when they themselves are not willing to preach it from the pulpit anymore. And um, I get a lot of members agreeing with me on that one. Like, I think all the articles, the musical, like I think it is finally starting to work and finally starting to be like, wow, is this really what Jesus would do? And Chris can probably back me up on this. Like that is one of the core things that the musical wrestles with is, what would Jesus actually do? Would Jesus hoard hundreds of billions in land and stocks? The answer to the entire world is no. And we can all see it. And there's a few members who can also see it. And I mean, I could go on forever. I'll shut up.
No, you're right on. And Landon and I were just talking about that, how they're not going to say it at the top. It's going to trickle down, and the marching orders for these kinds of things, like hammering you for tithing and tithing settlement, it's the lower level. It's the bishop. They have to do the dirty work. I mean, there's only one meeting that LDS people have to go to yearly. And what do they ask you about? It's the money. It's not anything else. It's not, are you kind? Are you, good to your kids? It's not, it's, are you paying? So yeah. And that's the lower levels take care of that. So Chris, do you have any predictions? I think I felt right on with Dave's. That's kind of what we've been talking about. What do you think?
It'll certainly be interesting to see where they go. My first intuition was, okay, they've got to hook in those true blue believers, and because they're already denying, right? And so super easy to just say like, oh, double down on your tithing. But it, as David was talking, they did make a small change to that, right? To the tithing. They don't call it tithing settlement anymore or something.
Yeah, declaration.
Declaration.
That's even more pressure. You are
very
declaring,
crafty.
and you better stick
very
to
crafty.
it. Yeah, it's all in the words.
whatever they do, and I had this thought as we were discussing something a little bit earlier, is kind of sounds a bit like what Satan does, right? He takes, or according to them, where they take the truth, right, and just twist it just a titch, and whatever they do, there's going to be those little subliminal messages underneath it saying like, hey, you guys double down on this. But so I think to some degree, right, there's got to be some sort of undertone of like, hey, how are we going to get all these people back on board to just, and I tell you, it's super sad. One of the things that, Dave really got me thinking about with this musical was the fact that the homeless population is so bad in Salt Lake alone. And that's the headquarters. Like, the potential for this church and so many churches to completely at least change things for where they're at, where they have their roots. Like, there's so much potential for good. And I think that was one of the cool things that we did with the musical, Dave, was that in the end, some of those people who were part of the problem end up being part of the solution. And so I guess what I would hope to see, in conference, is that they're starting to make those changes, and there really is an actual concentrated effort. Whether I think that's actually really going to happen, probably. Like,
I see that they're going to have to do something big to show that they're doing something good with that money, and so I think like Dave said, they're not going to talk about tithing. But I do think they're going to talk about all the good they do in the world to try to show that they are doing good. And then I think there's going to be some big announcement of some big good initiative they're going to do to try to smokescreen the tithe.
Yeah, they just need to give the TBM something to hang their hats on.
Yeah.
So when other people say, what about this? They'll go, didn't you hear conference? They're doing this. They just need to give them that ammo that they can then fight back. And it has to be something like that. So does anyone think there'll be any actual, I don't know, demonstrations or protests, or anybody outside of conference wearing green t-shirts with dollar signs on them? That's what I was thinking. Do you think anybody will try to, now that I've said it, let's go do it? Who's in?
Yeah,
Come
Dave,
on.
let's get some merchandise, man.
Let's get some merch that says we do not consider this matter closed. Like it says we consider this matter closed, and then with a not, and it's crossed out. I'm telling you.
There you go. There you go.
Now, I don't know. Do you think it's even worth it for anybody to try to? I mean, this is a huge issue. It's the biggest one I've seen in just forever. I don't know either.
Here's what I have to say. You would not believe the number of active members who, after the show and after some of my recent Facebook posts and everything, have come to me saying, man, I wish I could have a voice like that. And I wish I could make a difference. So I just want to say to any member who still attends, don't underestimate the power of your voice. For example, she might hate me for this, but the thing that my wife is battling right now more than the money is the sex abuse cover-ups. And she has an incredible story related to this, and for her, I'm just trying to encourage her. I'm trying to encourage any member and anyone who thinks that their voice is not going to be heard. It's BS. And I specifically had someone, it drives me nuts, in Sunday school, right after the musical came out, right after the church 2 days later did their biggest cash gift ever. They raised their hand in Sunday school and said, there is nothing we as members can possibly do that will ever change any direction of the church, period. That's word for word what she said. And yet, once again, if we go back through history in the church, what is it that caused the changes, the positive changes? It was the loud public outcries every time. It was not some magic revelation to the leaders. It wasn't. It was the loud voices daring to call out the BS. And I want to be that voice and encourage anyone who, all these friends of mine who came up to me, oh, I wish I had a voice. You do. You might not be writing a massive musical, but your voice can be heard. And the question for those members is, can you handle it? Because it sucks, because you'll be painted as a villain, you'll be shunned, and it sucks. So can you handle that as a member? That's up to you. But don't hide your voice. Don't hide your conscience. And it's pretty cool to see all these people who are like, wow, Dave, this is awesome. What can I do to help? And yeah.
And there's a way
sentimental real quick.
There's a way you can quietly do it by simply taking the money you were given for tithing and give it to a good cause, and then go tell your bishop at tithing settlement, yes, I'm paying my tithing. I just happen to be giving through this organization that I can trust to spend it the way I intended it to be spent, or the way the Lord intended it to be spent. And let the bishop give you all the argument you want, but that's all you have to say. It's a quiet way to say it, but you're speaking, and you're speaking in a way that they understand best, and that is they're not getting the money.
And I can't tell you how many times I've heard current members tell me that exact same thing. Yeah. That seems to be kind of the common thread. But I just wanted to say to David that man, so when we got talking about this show, right, I was still kind of hiding, I was out, but I was sort of hiding, and And I just kept thinking, like, God, I mean, how does Dave do this? Like he's in the church, and he's still, trying to be a good, upstanding member, and he's, being a voice. And so Dave really, I mean, this whole thing, there was like a wall that I had to hit where I was like, am I going to write this musical like very carefully and kind of safe, or am I going to really like let my voice shine and try to, lift up what Dave has done with his voice too, and I actually ended up scrapping my first run at it because I felt like, with David's songs and uh, how much that drove his voice and what he wanted to say, I just wasn't doing it justice, and so it really is true, what Dave says is, wherever you want to stand, the most important thing is that you use your voice, and honestly, damn the consequences, because at the end of the road, you can be miserable on one side, or you can be, I mean, still conflicted or still catching, that sort of resistance from people, but at least that you're doing the right thing, and that hopefully someone will hear and say like, oh yeah, I'm going to stand up too, and I'm gonna contribute my voice. So thanks, Dave, for helping to give me the courage to do that. I was out and you're in, and you had a louder voice. So
yeah,
we equaled out in the end.
This is so inspiring. I feel like we need one of your songs right now. Like we all need to burst into it just with what you guys are saying. It's just, I feel like, and I think this is probably a good place close to end, because you've both made these really powerful statements with a call to action, I feel like, for people. But I also feel like you two are really poised in a way that you could be collectively a voice. I mean, you could band together and say, remember us? We wrote The Good Shepherd, and here's our opinion. Whether this would be blogging or lots of social media posts, you guys kind of already represent people that weren't afraid to say, look. So I don't know, have you thought of yourselves that way in this situation, as people that are kind of poised to be a voice, or people that other people could rally around? I see you guys that way. I mean, I really do.
I think, Chris, you probably know which cast member I'm talking about here. You helped find her. I think the musical gave so many people a voice that they couldn't have even imagined. And that's pretty rewarding as a composer and creator, to create something that gives dozens of people this power. And the show needs a real run, 2 to 3 weeks. And this is so out of my comfort zone, but I'm just going to put the plug out there anyways. Like, seriously, if anyone has any means or passion or wants to help make this happen for a real 2 or 3 week run, please reach out to me or Chris. And because the money is a huge aspect of it, but like Chris said, there's so many. The song that Chris was referring to earlier on in this interview is called "A Packaged Life," and the lyrics say, "A packaged life with a ribbon and bow, and a blueprint telling you how your life should go, what to wear, and how to behave so that you're worthy to enter into heaven's gate." And that song that I had scrapped, and I sang it one time for Chris while we were talking on the phone, and he's like, "Oh, we got to have that." And it turns out that song has become like the most relatable song for people who have left, people who are PMO, as they say, people who are still in and have a voice and have all these internal conflicts, because they feel like if they don't fit into this tiny little box perfectly, that there's no room for them in the church. And I have felt that crushing reality, and my family has, and it's just interesting how that song about a packaged life has related to Like, I don't know about you, Chris, but that song by far that I had scrapped originally is the one that people just absolutely relate to. Hats off to my wife Lexi, who helped write some of the lyrics to that, and also to some of the other powerful songs. Like, anyways, we got to get the show out there again 2 or 3 weeks. So talk to me or Chris if you have any interest in helping out.
How do you find your songs? You said they're on Spotify. Do you look for them under the Good Shepherds, or do you have to know the names, or how do you search for those?
Yep. So good question. You can search on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and yes, if you search the Good Shepherds, it'll pull up probably like 10 or so songs.
There's 2 separate albums too. So
yeah, 2 separate little mini albums. But if you search the Good Shepherds, it'll pull it up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we encourage everybody to go and do that just to get a sense of what we're talking about. You can probably tell how passionate we are about it, but I think when you hear the music, I think you'll understand more about it. So, Landon, do you have any final thoughts here? I think, boy, this has been quite the interview.
I just want to say thank you for your courage in putting this on. I as soon as I saw the ad come out, I went, "Oh, these guys are in trouble. I've got to go to this." So thank you for being a voice and pulling out what and bringing to light what a lot of people are saying, but not able to say in words. So thank you for your courage is all I have to say.
That's right. They're a voice. So yeah. So everybody, please go and look up the songs of the Good Shepherd and communicate with Chris and Dave if you would like to. And if there's a way that you can think of to support or offer any kind of assistance, communicate with us, communicate with them. I think this has never been more timely and more relevant. And I think they were practically prophetic in putting this out, because look what's happened. I really feel that way. It's amazing. So yes, please everybody support and take this to heart, because it's amazing what they're doing and what they're trying to shine a spotlight on. So, all right, we'll say goodbye. I really feel like we could talk for another hour, but I guess we need to. It was amazing. And please like and subscribe to Mormonish. We love to hear what you think. Please comment. Tell us your experiences with, I don't know, asking bishops for help or helping others, or maybe some of you have saw the Good Shepherd. I mean, it played for several days. Maybe some of you did. Let's put in the comments. Let's talk about this amongst ourselves. Put your conference predictions in the comments. Let's just get a dialogue going. This is what's important. And we appreciate all of you, our viewers. We appreciate our wonderful guests, and I appreciate my co-host. And we will say goodbye for Mormonish for tonight. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mormonish. We really appreciate our listeners and would love to hear from you if you have a story you'd like to share. You can email us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, mormonishpodcast.org. And don't forget to look for us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Keep joyful, everybody.